Sessions' testimony. He dropped a bombshell there at the Senate hearing. The question now, is James Comey going to jail? Mark Webster, Liberty Writers, reports that the administration's firing of James Comey ignited a firestorm of controversy earlier this year, but they may know more about the situation than they're admitting publicly. During a Senate hearing on Wednesday, the Attorney General Jeff Sessions, he claimed that there may be devastating evidence yet to be revealed about James Comey. Quote, "I don't think it's been fully understood the significance of the error that Mr. Comey made in the Clinton matter." He said that during his exchange with Senator Feinstein. We're going to be showing you that clip here in a moment. He went on to say, "I don't think I've heard of a situation in which a major case in which the Department of Justice prosecutors were involved in an investigation and that investigative agency announces the closure of an investigation." He went on to say, particularly, we're concerned that he had reaffirmed that he would do this again if he had the chance. Watch this.
To ask you a question or two about the firing of the FBI director. Specifically, I have your letter dated May 9th to the president. Specifically, what was your designated role in the decision to fire Director Comey?
It is, it's a matter that I can share some information about because the president himself has talked about it and revealed or that letter. He asked that Deputy Rosenstein and I make our recommendations in writing. We prepared those recommendations and submitted it to the president. Senator Feinstein, I don't think it's been fully understood the significance of the error that Mr. Comey made on the Clinton matter. For the first time I'm aware of in all of my experience, and I don't think I've heard of a situation in which a major case in which the Department of Justice prosecutors were involved in an investigation, that the investigative agency announces the closure of the investigation. And then a few weeks before this happened, he was testifying before the Congress, Mr. Comey was, and he said he thought he did the right thing and would do it again. So the Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein, who's got, 27 years in the Department of Justice, Harvard graduate, served for 8 years as U.S. Attorney under President Obama, and 4 years under President Bush. He said that was a usurpation of the position of the Department of Justice, the Attorney General's position, and that particularly we were concerned that he reaffirmed that he would do it again. So I think that was a basis that called for a fresh start at the FBI. Mr. Comey had many talents, there's no doubt about it. I have no hard feeling about that, but I am really excited about the new director, Chris Wray, who you've confirmed with an overwhelming vote, and I believe he's going to be able to do the job of FBI director with great skill and integrity.
What exactly did President Trump tell you was his reason for firing Director Comey? I know he has said he thought the department was a mess, and he asked you and Mr. Rosenstein to take a look at it. And my understanding was these two letters were presented, the letter from you dated May 9th and the letter from Rosenstein dated the same date, a response to that request to take a look at the department.
That's what I can tell you. He did ask for our written opinion, and we submitted that to him. It did not represent any change in either one of our opinion, as Deputy Rosenstein has also indicated, I believe. And we were asked to provide it, and we did.
Did the president ever mention to you his concern about lifting the cloud on the Russia investigation?
Senator Feinstein, that calls for a communication that I've had with the president, and I believe it remains confidential.
But you don't deny that there was a communication.
I do not confirm or deny the existence of any communication between the president that I consider to be confidential.
When did you first speak with the president about firing Director Comey? What date?
Senator Feinstein, I think that's also covered by my opening statement. I believe the president has the right and I have a duty to meet with him on proper occasions and provide such advice, legal or otherwise, as I'm called upon to do. I have done that, and I believe he has a right to protect that confidentiality until appropriate circumstances exist that he might choose to waive that privilege.
All right. Let me go to another aspect, and that's emoluments lawsuits. The president's facing 3 different lawsuits alleging he is violating the emoluments clause of the Constitution. In these cases, strangely to me at least, the Justice Department is defending the president. What did the department do to determine that it was appropriate to represent the president? Was the Office of Legal Counsel consulted?
I believe so. And I would say that it is the responsibility of the Department of Justice to defend the office of the presidency in carrying on its activities against charges that are not deemed meritorious.
And you believe that emoluments is part of that charge? Emoluments?
Well, it's, you know, Senator Feinstein, I guess I'm not able to discuss legally all the case law and the history of it, except to say we believe that this is defensible, and we've taken the position that our top lawyers believe is justified.
Well, let me go to another subject. Joe Arpaio. President Trump pardoned the former Maricopa County Sheriff who was convicted of criminal contempt for defying a court order to stop racially profiling and detaining Latino motorists based solely on suspicion they were undocumented immigrants. The Washington Post reported that before he decided to pardon Arpaio, the president asked you to drop the criminal case against Arpaio. Did the president ask you whether the case against Arpaio could be dropped?
Senator Feinstein, I cannot comment on the private conversations I may have had with the president. I would just say that attorneys in the Department of Justice, at the request of the judge, prosecuted that case. A federal judge found the defendant guilty of a misdemeanor and for his actions, and the president decided to issue a pardon.
Well, let me ask you this. What was the process then by which the decision was made to pardon Arpaio?
I'm not aware of the details of it. To the extent to which I can provide you in writing, I would be pleased to do so. Well, but the president has the power to issue pardons with or without the Department of Justice involved, and that has been done in the past in some very dramatic type pardons. This pardon, I think, was well within the power of the president to do.
Well, my understanding is that pardon requests usually go through the Office of the Pardon Attorney in the Department of Justice, and decisions are made according to certain standards set out in that office's rules governing petitions for executive clemency. It has been reported that the process was not followed here, as you so indicate. So what you are saying, in fact, that there was no process, that the president simply made the decision to pardon Arpaio, who had been convicted?
I'm not intending to say that at all. I'm just saying to you that I am not personally at this moment not prepared to give you an accurate answer because I don't know that I remember or know it precisely. Let me get you something in writing that would be accurate. I think I'd prefer to do that.
Epic exchange. Now, this revelation comes just as the FBI confirmed that Comey drafted Hillary's exoneration letter before Clinton was interviewed by the Bureau. Now, these back-to-back statements, they look very, very grim for James Comey. And his situation may just get a lot worse now that the Attorney General is testifying on the matter. Now, has he concluded that Comey broke the law? Well, we may soon find out. Comment "lock him up" and share it out if you support our Attorney General. He is fighting the #1 swamp criminal of all time. Well, Hillary and Comey and Obama and Mueller. They're all swamp criminals.
President Trump is continuing his war of words with Congresswoman Wilson and the media. He tweeted today, "The fake news is going crazy with wacky Congresswoman Wilson, Democrat, who was secretly on a very personal call and gave a total lie on content." Let's bring in Mary Kissel, who's part of the Wall Street Journal's editorial page team and is a Fox News contributor. All right, we do, as John Roberts put it, we have so many places to take this, but there are a couple of important places. That Gold Star family is hurting. And the person that they lost in that ambush in Niger, senators on the Hill, along with the defense secretary, getting ready to meet in the next 90 minutes to figure out what happened with that operation. Those are the news points. But you have, I understand, Mary, some words to say about fake courage.
Well, I think what you saw yesterday from Mr. Kelly, he's out of uniform now, is real courage, was real moral authority, standing up and saying to the American people, there are some things that are sacred in this country. And he wasn't just talking about the sacrifice of the fallen. You'll note later in his comments, Harris, he said, we used to have respect for women, we used to have respect for life, we used to have respect for the church. I think these comments are very important because today we see a lot of quote-unquote fake courage, as I put it. You know, students on campus standing up against microaggressions which are meaningless, media players getting gotcha moments, trying to dissect every word of, let's see if we can get Trump today. Instead of standing back and really looking at, what are the real issues that matter to the American public?
Such strong comments about where the moral compass lies. Let's talk about politics, though, Mary, for just a second. How do you take the oxygen out of this story and move on to those important points that we were talking about? And, oh, by the way, for all those other Gold Star families, this now elevates this one family above all of the rest, and we grieve with all of them.
Of course we do. And the way that you take the oxygen out of this, Harris, is to let Mr. Kelly's statement stand and not say anything else, because I think he acted as the adult in the room. As I said before, he's got the moral authority to speak.
Why is that not enough? Where are we? Are we stuck?
Because I think that, look, we have a president who takes his politics very personally. We know that. That's who he is. So he always feels the need to respond, and the Democrats always want to bait him because they know he'll respond. And you saw that just now with the tweet. I think the president should have just let Mr. Kelly's statement stand. And if he wanted to make a statement, just say, I agree with what he said. We honor our Gold Star families, period. That's the end of it.
Real quickly before I let you go, does this, do you think, policy-wise, change presidents making those calls? Because they have a lot of ways that they can reach out to families. Not everybody gets a call. And we know from former presidents George W. Bush and Obama, unfortunately, there were so many more war dead at that point that a personal call was not always an option.
Look, it's always a tragedy whenever a president feels he has to write a letter to a family, a Gold Star family, or he has to take a call. That's a personal decision of how the president handles it, as Mr. Kelly outlined yesterday. My hope is that we don't get into a situation where we need to be making that many calls, writing that many letters.
Well, amen to that.
Yeah.
Mary Kissel, Wall Street Journal editorial board. Thank you very much. Good to see you.